The night was cold, much colder than Evan expected. He tightened his jacket and looked up. The alien moon above had 3 glowing rings. It was beautiful, but dangerous. Wind howled through the trees. Sharp leaves flew past. His tent was broken, and his communicator was dead. He was alone. He had crash-landed just hours ago. Now he needed warmth, shelter, food, and hope. As he moved deeper into the forest, he saw strange lights, soft blue orbs floating in the air. They buzzed quietly, leading him toward a rocky hill. Maybe it was just his mind playing tricks, but he followed anyway. Then he saw her, a figure curled near a rock, small, shivering, pale skin glowing faintly under the moonlight, long white hair spread across the cold stone. She looked weak, like she hadn't eaten in days. Evan stepped closer carefully. She wasn't human. Her ears were pointed, her fingers long and thin. She wore a torn robe, barely covering her. And her eyes, when they opened, were golden like fire. She looked up at him with fear. Her lips moved, whispering something in a strange language. I don't want to hurt you, Evan said, raising his hands. The woman shivered again. Without thinking, Evan removed his jacket and placed it around her. The moment the fabric touched her, she gasped, and her golden eyes widened. Her hand reached, up slowly, and touched his chest. Then she spoke one word. Vainkara. Evan didn't understand, but the tone felt sacred. Suddenly, drums echoed in the distance. Boom, boom, boom. Evan stood up fast. What was that? The woman tried to rise but fell forward. Evan caught her. The drums grew louder. Shapes appeared between the trees. Dozens of tall alien warriors. Their armor was made of bone and silver. Their eyes burned like her golden ones. They surrounded Evan in silence. Evan raised his hands again. I'm not your enemy. One warrior dropped to one knee, then another and another. All of them bowed. Evan blinked. What's happening? One of them stepped forward. He had scars across his face and held a long staff. He looked at Evan, then at the woman in his arms. And then he said in broken English, You warm the queen. You give sacred cloth. You are chosen. Evan froze. Queen? He looked down at the woman in his arms. She was barely conscious, but she was smiling now. The warrior pointed at Evan's chest. You give heart. Now, you belong to her. Evan was taken into the forest carrying the queen in his arms. The warriors didn't bind him. They didn't treat him like a prisoner. Instead, they guided him carefully, like an honored guest. The trees parted to reveal a hidden village. Giant trees had been carved into homes. Fires burned inside large stone bowls. Children peeked from behind doorways. Everyone stared at Evan as he passed. Whispers followed him. Vainkara. The binding. He gave his warmth. He didn't understand a word. Inside the biggest tree structure, they laid the queen down on a soft bed of glowing moss. He tried to leave, but a hand stopped him. It was the queen. Still weak, she looked up and whispered, Stay. Evan stayed. Later, an elder woman came. She wore a cloak made of feathers and silver rings on her arms. She knelt before the queen and placed a hand on her forehead. Then she looked at Evan and said, You gave her your skin in the storm. Our law calls this a sacred bond. I just gave her my jacket, Evan said. She was freezing. The elder smiled. To us, that is love. Evan's eyes widened. Wait, no, I was just trying to help. The elder rose slowly. Help is love. Protection is promise. You may not understand our ways, but the tribe does. Evan sat down beside the queen. She was asleep again, breathing softly, his jacket still wrapped around her. He whispered, What have I done? Outside, the drums started again, and somewhere in the village someone began preparing a wedding mask. Evan woke up to soft singing. He opened his eyes and realized he was still in the same glowing tree hut. The queen slept beside him on a bed of moss, still wearing his jacket. Her breathing was slow and peaceful now, but the room was not peaceful. It was full. 6 tall alien women stood in a circle. They were brushing the queen's long white hair, painting glowing symbols on her cheeks, and placing shining stones in her silver crown. When Evan sat up, they all stopped and looked at him. Then all at once, they bowed deeply. One of them smiled. "He wakes," another whispered. "The bonded one." Evan blinked. "Wait, what? Why are you? What's going on?" Before he could say more, the queen stirred. She opened her golden eyes, saw him, and smiled softly. "You stayed." Evan rubbed his face. "I didn't really have a choice." The queen tilted her head. "But you could have left. Many do." Before he could answer, the tall elder woman from before entered the room. Her face was serious. "We must begin," she said firmly. "Begin what?" Evan asked. "The joining ritual." Evan stood up fast. No, listen. I think there's a mistake. I didn't mean anything by giving her my jacket, I was just helping." The queen looked hurt. The elder nodded slowly. "Yes, you gave warmth. You gave safety. In our law, that means you offer your spirit." Evan raised his hands. "Back home, we call that being nice." The elder didn't seem to care. "You have given the queen your warmth," she said. "Now the people prepare." "Prepare for what?" A warrior entered. "The feast begins. The queen and her bonded one must appear." Evan whispered under his breath, "Bonded one." Great. Outside, the village had transformed. The trees were glowing with light vines. Fires burned bright. The people danced in circles and sang songs Evan couldn't understand. A huge table of food, some steaming, some still moving, waited in the center. The queen took Evan's arm as they stepped forward. The music stopped. Everyone bowed. The queen raised her hand. "He is my warmth," she said loudly in her language. "He brought light when I was fading." The crowd cheered. Evan leaned in. "You really believe that?" She looked at him. "You didn't walk away when I was cold and weak." "Why?" Evan opened his mouth, then closed it. Finally, he said, "Because it was right." She smiled. "Then let the bond form." He whispered again. "What does that mean?" The queen turned and pointed to a stone statue of 2 figures holding hands. "One of your people came long ago. He saved my grandmother. They bonded. Their child was strong, wise, peaceful. He united tribes. Now, maybe it happens again." Evan felt dizzy. "You think we're supposed to marry?" She tilted her head. "You already gave me your jacket." He groaned. Later that night, after the feast, Evan sat alone under a glowing tree. A small child came up to him and placed a flower crown on his head. Evan sighed. "Thanks, kid." The queen appeared again, sitting beside him. "I know it's strange," she said softly. "It's completely insane," he replied. "But I don't hate it." The queen looked surprised. "I thought you were afraid." "I was. I still am. I came from a world where people lie, steal, leave others to suffer. Then I gave a jacket to a stranger guy, and now I'm some kind of prince." She nodded slowly. "Maybe your world forgot how to see kindness." They sat in silence. Finally, the queen whispered, "You don't have to stay. If you leave now, no one will hurt you. But I will miss you." Evan looked at her, really looked. The gentle glow of her skin, the strength behind her calm voice, the way she wrapped his jacket, tighter like it meant something. "I'll stay, for now," he said. Her smile lit up the night. Evan stood at the edge of the village. He watched the mist rise from the deep forest where giant glowing roots moved like snakes in the dirt. Strange bird creatures flew above, their wings silent in the cold morning air. He took a deep breath. It had been 3 days since the warmth bond. 3 days since he gave his jacket to the shivering alien queen. Now, everyone treated him like he was part of their royal bloodline. Everywhere he walked, people bowed. Children followed him, giggling and handing him painted stones. Hunters brought him food wrapped in strange leaves. But Evan still felt like a stranger. He missed Earth. He missed coffee. He missed knowing what was going on. Then came the queen. She appeared quietly behind him, as she often did. "You're awake early," she said. Evan turned. "Couldn't sleep. Still getting used to being someone I'm not." The queen tilted her head. "You are someone now. That is enough." He looked down at her feet. "You really believe that giving a jacket means marriage?" She smiled, gently. "To us, warmth is rare. Our planet is cold. Food is hard. Strangers fight. But when someone gives warmth to another, not for trade, not for power, only one reason remains." Evan asked, "What reason?" She stepped closer. "Love." Before Evan could reply, loud horns echoed from the center of the village. The queen's smile faded. "It's time." "Time for what?" She looked into his eyes. "For you to decide." The village square was full. All eyes were on Evan and the queen. Drummers stood in a circle, pounding a slow, deep beat. Dancers moved around a fire, throwing colored powders into the flames. Each puff exploded in a new color: blue, gold, red, purple. Evan was led to the center. He looked around nervously. The elder woman stepped forward, holding a glowing necklace made of braided crystal and silver bone. "This is the bond mark," she said. "If you wear it, the queen becomes your life. Her people become your people, her heart becomes yours." Evan opened his mouth to speak, but the queen raised her hand. "I will ask him," she said softly. The crowd went silent. She turned to Evan. "3 nights ago I was dying," she said. "You gave me warmth. You could have left me, but you didn't." She stepped forward and held the necklace in her hands. "You were a stranger. Now you are something more. I ask, in front of my people, will you share your warmth again? For life?" Evan's heart pounded. He looked around. Every face watched him. Every eye waited. The queen looked nervous, almost afraid. It wasn't a command. It was a true question. He could say no. He could walk away. But he looked at her. Not just a queen. Not just an alien. A person who had been cold, alone, afraid. Just like him. He stepped forward and slowly took the necklace in his hands. "I still don't understand everything," he said, "but I understand this. You didn't need saving. You needed someone to see you." He placed the necklace over his head. The crowd erupted into cheers. Drums pounded faster. Music grew louder. The queen stepped forward and took his hand. That night they sat beside each other under the stars, away from the crowd. She looked at him quietly. "Are you scared?" He nodded. "Yeah, a little." She smiled. "So am I." He looked at her glowing golden eyes and asked, "What now?" She answered, "Now you become one of us." Evan sighed. "I gave you a jacket. Now I have a crown, a tribe, and a queen." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You gave me more than warmth," she whispered. He whispered back, "I think you gave me something too." Evan had never worn armor before. Now he stood in front of a polished stone mirror, wearing shoulder guards made of beast bone, a fur-lined cloak, and a metal chest plate painted with the symbol of the queen's tribe, a rising flame under a broken sky. It felt too heavy, too serious. Outside the hut, the village prepared for something big. Banners made from shining leaves flapped in the wind. Drums beat in a slow, steady rhythm. Soldiers sharpened spears. Children painted their faces in red clay. The queen entered quietly. You look strong, she said. I feel uncomfortable, Evan replied. She smiled softly. Soon you'll feel proud. He turned to her. You said I gave you warmth. You said I saved you. But now, I don't feel like the hero. I feel like a tool in someone else's plan. The Queen looked down. You are not a tool. You are a bridge. A bridge? Yes, she said. Between your world and mine. Later, that day the Queen led Evan deep into the forest, to a hidden spring surrounded by glowing trees. The air was warm here, peaceful. She sat beside the water and touched its surface. My people are not safe, she said. A rival tribe watches us. They believe we are weak now, because I was rescued. Evan frowned. What does that have to do with me? They think I depend on you, she whispered. That I'm no longer fit to rule without a human's help. That's crazy, Evan said. You're stronger than anyone I've ever met. She looked into his eyes. Then stay beside me. He sat down beside her. I didn't come here to be a king. You came to help a stranger. Evan looked into the water. He saw his own reflection, tired, confused, but no longer alone. I don't want to lead, he said. I just want to do what's right. Then stay. Fight with us, she said. Evan was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Okay. That night, the fire circle burned brighter than ever. The Queen stood beside Evan and raised her hand. Tonight we prepare not for war, but for unity. The crowd cheered. Evan raised his voice too. I don't understand your ways fully, but I know this. Anyone who attacks you, attacks me too. The tribe roared in agreement. But not everyone was happy. Behind the circle, a shadow moved through the crowd. A young warrior named Trask, son of the tribe's former leader. He didn't trust Evan. He whispered to others, The outsider weakens our queen. Soon, he will rule us all. Dark thoughts began to grow. Late that night, as the fires burned low, the Queen and Evan walked alone. You've changed me, she said. No one has ever stood beside me without asking for something. Evan laughed softly. You're the only queen I've ever shared a sleeping bag with. She smiled. You didn't just give me your jacket. You gave me something more. Hope. Evan stopped walking. Can I ask you something? Anything. What would have happened if I didn't give you the jacket that night? She was quiet. Then I would have died, she said. And my people would have fallen soon after. Evan's chest tightened. The Queen reached out and took his hand. You think you fell into my world by accident, but I believe fate brought you. In the shadows behind them, Trask watched silently. He whispered, You don't belong here, outsider. Then he turned and walked away, toward the forbidden border where the rival tribe waited, with a plan. The night was too quiet. Evan stood beside the Queen near the edge of the village wall. Something in the air felt wrong. The wind had stopped. The fires flickered strangely. Even the forest was silent. No chirps, no rustling. He turned to the high Queen. Something's coming, she nodded. I feel it too. Suddenly, a horn sounded, sharp, loud, full of warning. Then, shouts. From the eastern tree line, shadows charged through the mist. Dozens of tall, gray-skinned warriors with glowing eyes and curved blades. The rival tribe. The guards screamed, rushing to defend the gate. Evan pulled the Queen behind a stone pillar. Stay low. She pushed his hand away. I am not leaving. My people. Evan didn't argue. He grabbed a spear from a fallen warrior and stood by her side. The village exploded into chaos. Flames lit the sky as arrows flew overhead. The enemy had come fast, hoping to catch them weak, but they didn't expect Evan. Evan fought clumsily at first. He wasn't a warrior, but he was strong and angry. He knocked one attacker down with the flat of his spear. Another lunged, and Evan ducked just in time. His instincts kicked in. He swung with all his might and knocked the enemy away. The queen fought beside him with speed and grace. Her glowing blade moved like water, her crown had fallen, and blood ran down her cheek, but her eyes burned with fire. "You fight like—" "One of us," she shouted. "I fight for you," he yelled back. Then came Trask. He stepped from the shadows holding a torch. His eyes were wild, full of fury. He shouted over the noise, "Look! Your great human hero brings only war. He brought this attack." Some warriors near the gate hesitated. Trask turned to the rival tribe's leader, an older brute with metal, armor. "The queen has bonded with an outsider. She is not one of us anymore." The rival leader smirked. "Then surrender her. Give us the outsider, and we will leave." All eyes turned to Evan and the queen. The queen stepped forward, blood on her face, voice steady. "You dare ask us to betray the one who gave us hope? He saved your queen, he stood when you ran, and now you offer him like meat?" Trask shouted. "He does not belong here." Evan raised his voice. "You're right, I don't belong, but I choose to stay." The village fell silent. Evan stepped forward, looked at the enemy leader, and said, "You think killing me will break her, you're wrong." He raised his arms. "Take me, leave the tribe, let them live." The queen's eyes widened. "Evan, no. I started this bond," he said. "Let me end it." The rival leader grinned. "So brave, so stupid." He lifted his sword. Then, a sound broke through the silence. Thud, thud, thud. The warriors of the queen's tribe began to slam their spears into the ground one by one. Then they raised them high. "We stand with our queen," one shouted. "And her chosen," another added. Soon, even the guards near Trask raised their weapons toward the enemy. Evan looked around in shock. He wasn't alone. The rival leader growled. "So be it." He gave a signal. The enemies charged again, but this time the tribe was ready. Together, humans and aliens fought as one. The warriors protected the children. The queen moved like fire, and Evan, though cut and bruised, didn't back down. After a long, painful battle, the enemy fled. Smoke rose over the village. Bodies were burned. The wounded were cared for, and Evan sat near the central fire, exhausted. The queen knelt beside him. "You were willing to give your life," she whispered. He nodded slowly. "Because I do belong here now, don't I?" She touched his hand. "You are one of us." Evan looked up at the stars. He had come from a world full of machines, noise, and cold hearts. Now, he sat with a people who had nothing, but gave everything, especially to a stranger who gave a jacket. The battle was over, but the danger was not. 3 suns had passed since the enemy tribe was driven away. The village was healing. The huts were rebuilt, the injured cared for, and the dead honored with skyfire rituals. But something still felt wrong. Evan could feel it in the way the queen stayed close to her guards, in the way the warriors kept sharpening their weapons even after peace had returned, and most of all in the way Trask was never seen again. "He's hiding," the queen said one morning. "He shamed himself in front of the tribe. Men like him don't forget that." Evan nodded. Men like him plan something worse. That night, the queen asked Evan to follow her deep into the heart of the jungle. They walked in silence until they reached a place she had never shown him before. It was a circle of ancient stone pillars, all cracked and glowing faint blue. Vines wrapped around them. But in the center stood a large bowl, filled with liquid light. "This is the memory well," she said. "We come here to see the truth when we're unsure." She touched the bowl, and the liquid shimmered. Evan looked down into it and saw Trask. He was speaking with outsiders, off-world mercenaries, offering them something. He watched the image of Trask hand over a small glowing stone. The queen's eyes widened. "That's a blood crystal. It contains royal codes." Evan's fists clenched. "He's going to betray the entire planet." The next day, guards searched for Trask, but he had vanished. The queen called an emergency council. Elders, hunters, and young warriors all gathered inside the longhouse. "We have a traitor among us," she said, "one who would sell us for pride." Whispers filled the air. Evan stood beside her, his voice firm. This isn't just about us anymore. Trask is working with mercenaries. They don't care about honor or bloodlines. They'll take everything. One of the elders growled. If Trask gives them the Queen's signature, they can call for an invasion. The Sky Clans will believe she approved it. The Queen looked at Evan. We must stop him before the stars fall. Later that night, Queen and Evan prepared to leave the village quietly. Only a small group of trusted warriors went with them. Where are we going? Evan asked. She answered, to the mountain caves. That's where he hid last time after losing a duel. It's where he always runs to lick his wounds. Evan grinned slightly. Bad men have bad habits. They left under cover of fog. The forest was quiet again, but this time it didn't feel like peace. It felt like something waiting. And it was. Inside the mountain caves, they found signs of life. A fire still warm, footprints, and a small blinking device buried under stones. Evan bent down. This is a signal beacon. It's calling someone. Just then, a shout. Trask leapt from the shadows with two strange armored men beside him. Mercenaries. Evan and the Queen drew their blades. Trask laughed. You thought you could stop me with honor? This world should belong to warriors, not lovers. The Queen raised her voice. You gave away our future for your pride. Trask charged. The mercenaries opened fire, but Evan was faster. He rolled, grabbed the beacon, and smashed it with a rock. Sparks flew. The signal was gone. The mercenaries cursed and ran. Now it was just Trask, cornered and furious. He fought like a wild animal, blade swinging wildly. Evan blocked, dodged, countered, and then disarmed him. Trask fell to his knees, panting. You lost, Evan said, holding his weapon steady. The Queen walked forward slowly. She looked down at Trask. No throne will ever, except a man who bows only to himself. And then she turned away. Leave him, she said to the guards. Let the mountain decide his fate. Back at the village, Evan stood in front of the fire again. The people cheered his return. The Queen stepped beside him, her voice calm and strong. The traitor is gone. The danger is past. But there is one thing we must now decide. She turned to Evan. You came here as a stranger, but you fought as one of us, loved as one of us, bled for our future. She reached into her cloak and pulled out a new symbol, a crown of woven silver and starlight. You were my warmth. Now, I ask, will you be my flame? The village stood still. Everyone's eyes were on Evan. The Queen's crown of starlight rested in her hands, glowing faintly in the firelight. Her voice echoed softly. Will you be my flame? Evan's heart pounded in his chest. He looked at the crown, then at her, wounded, brave, proud, and finally at the people gathered around. Warriors, elders, children, all of them waiting. A month ago, he had just been a human scout, cold, tired, and looking for shelter. Now he was standing in front of an entire tribe, being asked to become something more. He stepped forward. I never planned for this, he said, his voice rough. But I know this. I'd fight again. I'd bleed again. I'd freeze again, just to see this tribe safe. He bent slightly, just enough for the Queen to place the crown on his head. The tribe erupted in cheers, not because a new king was chosen, but because they had chosen him too. Later that night, the Queen and Evan stood on the highest cliff above the glowing treetops. The stars stretched across the sky like a river of silver. It feels strange, Evan said. What does? To belong. She smiled. It's not strange. It's rare. They stood in silence, listening to the wind. The Queen turned to him. You gave me your jacket that cold night, and without asking, you gave more. You needed it, Evan said softly. And now, she whispered, I need you. The next morning, the Queen gathered the tribe again. Today we burn away the past, she said, and light the future. A massive bonfire was lit. The people threw broken weapons, torn cloth, old symbols of war into the flames. Evan stepped, forward last. He held something tightly in his fist, his old scout badge. He looked at it for a long time. Then he tossed it into the fire. The human badge sizzled, cracked, and vanished. "I'm not just from Earth anymore," he said quietly. "I'm from here too." As the fire burned high, music began. Drums, singing, laughter. But far from the celebration, deep in the forest, a figure watched. It was one of the mercenaries who had escaped. He whispered into a small comm device, "Target lost. Human has been accepted by the natives," a voice replied through static. "Then he's no longer a scout, he's a threat. Orders? Observe and wait. Earth may come for him." Back at the village, Evan danced with the children. They painted, his face in colors of fire and sky. The queen watched him from a distance, her heart full. One of the elders came to her side. "He carries warmth in his chest, but fire can also bring war." The queen nodded. "Then let him burn beside me." That night, in the quiet of the queen's hut, Evan laid beside her. The stars peeked in through the roof. Her hand found his. "Would you still have given me your jacket," she whispered, "if you knew all this would happen?" He looked at her and smiled. "I would have given you my heart."